What's up guys, welcome back to another episode of Redline Racing Garage. So today we're going to be working on the Street EG build. We have the motor already removed from the previous EG, and I have a couple of things that I want to slap on that swap. Check this out. Alright, so let's get right to it. Alright, so here are a couple of the things that we're going to be installing on the Street EG swap. And first and foremost, I did go and grab a Stage 4 Clutchmasters clutch, the whole kit, but I did not grab the flywheel. I wanted to open up the transmission and see what condition the flywheel is before I actually went and purchased one. So we're going to be doing that today. A couple of other things we're going to be installing in this video is a Unit 2 Fabrication oil pan. I'm super excited about this thing, guys. This thing has all the trap doors and everything, so you can have optimal oil pressure. And speaking of oil pressure, we're going to be installing also a Unit 2 Fabrication oil pump. So this is a Type S oil pump, but it has been cut and ported by Unit 2. So we're going to be getting this guy on today as well. And this is basically just a install kit for the oil pump. So this is all from Honda. So we're going to be getting all of this stuff in. We have the guide and bolts and everything. We also have a Honda chain for the pump. All right, so let's get straight to it. Oh, hold on a second, guys. We are also going to be installing the RBC manifold. So I did go and take the transmission off of the motor just to kind of inspect the clutch. So as of right now, what we're going to be doing is obviously removing the pressure plate, checking out the clutch, and especially checking out the flywheel. So I'm going to start by removing the pressure plate, the clutch, and also the flywheel, so we can get behind and install that little pilot bearing or whatever you guys want to call it. All right, so let's start by removing this. Alright, so got the clutch off and inspecting it. So first off, I do think that this is actually a Stage 4 clutch. That's why this thing held its own. I was always wondering what kind of clutch was in this thing, and now I know. This thing held its own, guys. As you guys know, on the track, on the street, this thing held its own. So this is a 6-puck Stage 4, and by the looks of it, I do think that this is a Clutchmasters also. So I'm thinking that it's the exact same clutch we're actually putting back in this thing. And as for the pressure plate, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's starting to kind of warp. Well, I don't really care that much about the pressure plate because we have a new one, but this is where... Let me just get my glove off. Yeah, it's starting to warp. This thing will definitely need a machining. 100%. That's for sure. Alright, the flywheel is off, and I will be sending this to the machine shop to get nicely polished and ready for the new clutch. Alright, so the next step is removing the intake manifold and also get the fuel rail with the injectors off and installed into the RBC manifold. Alright guys, so today is the next day. I'm back at the shop. I did go and machine the flywheel, so here it is. So we got the flywheel all machined. It's looking really good. And we also got the manifold off. It's sitting right there. So right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by putting back the flywheel, and then we're also gonna be installing the clutch. And today we will also be doing the RBC intake manifold, which is sitting right over there. I did go and grab a gasket, and because it's a stock throttle body, we do have to run a plate. So the only plate that JDM Addiction had was a skunk tube, which is fine. So we have the gasket and the plate, so this way we can run our stock throttle body. So we have everything ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and start installing the flywheel. We're going to get the clutch on there, torque everything down to spec, and then we're going to start with the RBC intake manifold, put that on right there, and then go from there. Alright, so before we actually go and install the flywheel, what I want to do is I want to put some thread locker on these flywheel bolts. I've seen a ton of people have issues with the flywheel bolts actually coming loose. So I did get some thread locker, which is medium strength. I think it's going to do a little bit better, just so we have a little bit of peace of mind. Now I'm not sure if it's because they weren't torqued down to the right spec. I don't know, but I've seen a lot of people do this, so I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to put just a little bit of some thread locker, and we're only going to be putting it on the tip. So let's start by putting about 3 or 4 of these, just so we can get the flywheel to stay in there, and then we're gonna do the rest. So not a lot, just a little bit. Basically I'd say about 1/8 of the bolt, or about 1/4. Nothing too crazy. We already got some on the floor here. Just a bit, you know, just to get some peace of mind. We will be torquing these to spec, but it's good to do just a little bit extra. So let's just do 4, and then we'll do the rest once the flywheel is in there. Just like that. Alright, so we got 4 of them now. Let's put the flywheel on there. I'm going to be very careful here so we don't touch this part right here. It's going to be very careful. We don't want to mess up the new machined flywheel. I'm just going to thread it by hand. Then do the bottom and the top. And then the 2 sides here. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and put some thread lock here on the rest of these bolts. I can already feel the thread lock working, so we got to do this fairly quickly because it's already starting to dry. Alright, so now that the bolts are in, we're going to go in 3 stages. We're going to do 30 foot-pounds in a crisscross pattern, which I have on my phone. You guys can check it out online as well if you need to do it. Then we're going to go 60, and then we're going to go 90. So right now I just have my pry bar here, so let's go ahead. Alright, so now that we got 30, we're going to set this thing up to 60 foot-pounds. Alright, we're going to do the same thing at 60. Alright, last stage. Let's see if this pry bar is gonna hold, and this motor on this stand. So let's do it. Okay. 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 All right, that's 90. All right, so that should do it for the flywheel. Let's bring this back. So I probably could have went to the crank pulley, held it like this on this end, and then torqued the flywheel from this side, but the leverage was really bad, so I decided just to put a pry bar through here and have everything over on this side and not having to deal with one side, and then the other side I probably wouldn't have torqued it properly to 90 pounds. I would have needed a lot of leverage and a little bit of strength, obviously, so I just decided to put the pry bar in there and then do it that way. But just here turning it over and it's pretty good. So the flywheel is in. That's pretty good. Now let's go ahead and install the clutch. First off, before we actually install the clutch, I'm just gonna go and brake clean the flywheel a little bit. Then we can go ahead, install the clutch, and then that portion should be done. Perfect. All right, so now that the flywheel is in, we got it all brake cleaned, we're gonna go ahead and install the clutch. So what you wanna do is the flat side is gonna go toward the flywheel, and then there's like a little hump here, so this part goes on the side, basically outside on the side of the pressure plate. So we got our alignment tool. Let's put this bad boy in there. Like that. All right, there you go, all done. Yeah, I wish it was that simple, but right now we're gonna go and install the pressure plate. All right, so now with the pressure plate, obviously you want to do the same thing, get it nice and clean. We're gonna let this thing dry, and we're gonna put it on, and we're gonna start torquing this thing down. So now that we have the pressure plate clean, we can go ahead and install it. Alright, so we're ready to torque this down. We're going to start at 10, and then we're going to move our way to 15 and then 19. We might be able to skip the 15 step, but we'll see. We're going to start off with 10, and then we're going to go from there. Alright, everything has been torqued in 3 sequences, so we're good to go. The only thing left to do is... Come on. Come on. Come on. Alright, that's it. Clutch is done. The only thing left to do is change out the throwout bearing in the transmission. And I can go ahead and put the transmission in there. But what we're gonna do next is work on the RBC intake manifold. Gonna get that on, swap the throttle body over to the RBC. Once we get that on, then we can start working on the transmission, get this thing back in. And we're getting close, guys. We're getting really close. Once this thing is all finalized, we have the clutch now. We're gonna put the transmission back. We have the intake manifold to do with the throttle body. Then we're gonna flip this thing over, put the oil pump in there, and then this thing is ready to go. Then we're gonna pop this guy in, the blue EG. All right, we got the intake manifold on. We also got the fuel rail in there with the injectors. I also did put the Skunk 2 plate so we can actually get our stock throttle body on there. Everything is tight, good to go. Finally, this thing is looking like something. Wait, oh yeah. Now it's finally starting to look like a motor. So now the only thing left for this thing is the Unit 2 oil pump and the Unit 2 oil pan. Once I can get this on my engine stand. I can flip this thing over and do the oil pan with the oil pump. And then we're ready to put this thing in the blue EG. I cannot wait to see this thing in there. We're very, very close. Alright guys, so I think that's where I'm going to leave this video at for today. Tomorrow we're coming back in. We're going to put this motor on the engine stand and we're going to flip this thing over, do the oil pump with the oil pan. All I have to do for the transmission is just put the throwout bearing in there. Then we can pop the transmission back on. So I think in the next video, we're going to have everything bolted up. This swap is going to be ready to go into the blue EG. There are still a couple of things that I have to steal off of the red EG here. So first of all, I have to steal the fuel pressure regulator with the feed line and the return line. I'm going to be going into the gas tank, stealing the fuel pump in there. I'm not exactly sure which fuel pump is in there, but it was good for about 426 horsepower. So I think we should be okay. So we're going to steal that. Then we're going to start taking everything off of this one and putting it into the blue one. Basically everything that I need from this chassis, gonna put it on there. And then once everything is done with the swap, like I said, we're gonna get to that tomorrow. Hopefully we can also get to everything that we need to get from this one to move it over to the other one. And then I think we should be very close on putting this swap in the blue EG. And that should be it. Then we'll be able to start it up, but that's gonna be in a future video. That'll do it for this one. Thank you all for watching and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.